Hola, bom dia. Carlos Manson here with the Good Morning Portugal live stream, YouTube and podcast. We're here this morning for the Friday phone-in, although we've hijacked ourselves a little bit this morning because Filomena Pascoal, who you will remember, we had a wonderful conversation about Portuguese, and we're going to have another one today, got in touch and said, would you like me to join you again? I said, yes, absolutely. And so she's coming back for a second time. And the first thing we discussed that we might talk about this morning was the difference between com licença, which you will have heard and you will know. And if you're British, you will have probably learned how to say sorry quite quickly in Portuguese, which, as you can see on my screen there, is desculpe, or as it's shortened in everyday conversation to desculpe. And we'll talk about that and other things. So given in the spirit of the Friday phone-in and making it a bit of a Portuguese language clinic, if you have any questions about the sort of trouble you've got yourself into trying to speak Portuguese, the embarrassment you may have caused yourself and your family and your entire culture on account of your inabilities around the Portuguese language, Filomena is here to help us this morning. And she'll be on after we've had a very quick look at the news and the weather. The weather, what we've been saying about the weather is it's the same as yesterday, and it'll be the same tomorrow at this time of year. However, it is a little bit hotter. I think already, when I was just talking briefly to Filomena, she was saying it's really hot already in Miranda de Córdoba. And for me, it's approaching 30 already inside and outside the studio this morning at Good Morning Portugal HQ. How are you this morning? Are we a little bit groggy and slow? Do we have to take seriously the ideas that came in yesterday that we might do this show in the siesta time? Would that be a good idea in the summer to maybe not start so early when you've been thrashing about all night in the heat and you're tired in the morning? Maybe 9 o'clock isn't a great time. Maybe we should do something like 1 o'clock or something like that for the summer season. And return to 9 o'clock in the winter. Very open to how we might handle that to make this the best possible service for you. So weather is done, pretty much the same as yesterday and the same as tomorrow, but perhaps a little bit hotter. You'll have seen from our opening screen the vigilance in Alvazra. That's Gary's wonderful picture this morning, looking at the observation tower that's keeping an eye on the landscape there at this time of year, obviously with fire risk. Amazing picture, and obviously, yes, do be vigilant and careful with fires. And as a foreigner expat, if you need to know what's going on, go to fogos.pt, fogos.pt, which is a very good service to let you know what's happening around the country, the state of any fires in progress, the fires that have been brought under control, and so on. Fogos.pt. Okay, very quick news story to share with you. Good news. I don't do the COVID coverage anymore because I think there are so many sources for finding about that sort of information. And I'm hoping to go back to our happy homesteading roots. You know, the reason why a lot of people came to Portugal was to grow food, to get off grid a little bit, to be a little bit more self-sufficient, to tune into local community life in Portugal. That's certainly why I'm here. And this story is in line with that. This is REN. This is Redes, the network of Energéticas Nacionais. REN today announced that this was on the 14th of July. So a recent article announced a project to convert 110 hectares of forest in Penacova, district of Coimbra, with the planting of more than 30,000 native species, 27,000 of which are arbutus. In a note sent to the Lusa agency, REN said that this forest conversion will be carried out along the energy transport corridors in an area between Serra de Atalhada. Filomena is probably thinking, oh, here he goes. Atalhada, Alva River, and the central de Agueira. This is translated, this article, so there may be some inconsistencies here. Promoting the restoration of ecosystems and increasing biodiversity. So that's, I mean, I mentioned the fires before, and we all know the part that perhaps the non-indigenous trees play in the fire risk, but isn't this wonderful? 110 hectares of forest, 27,000 strawberry trees. Now, in case you're wondering what those are, they are the Madronia. So let's find out a bit more about that. Cited in the statement, João Gaspar, responsible for the company's easements and heritage area, says that the operation represents the continuity of the ordering work. Can't do English this morning, let alone Portuguese, of REN's energy transport corridors across the country. With the conclusion of this new project, Penacova We now have more than 53% of the forest area converted in this municipality. Oh, for heaven's sakes, replacing species of fast growth and greater propensity of fires with native species with slower growth and generating annual income for the owners of the land. So that's fantastic. Returning to the indigenous species and, of course, reducing fire risk and creating some income for local people. That's wonderful. In the environmental dimension, it allows bringing biodiversity back to our landscape by betting on indigenous Mediterranean species. It guarantees environmental gains, pointed out Humberto Oliveira. Let me see if I can find something here about the madroña, because you can make an awesome liqueur from the madroña. That'll be good news, planting all those madroña trees eventually. It doesn't say a great deal about those, but look it up, and I will share that with you. We will talk about madroña inevitably here on the Good Morning Portugal live stream. In these conversions, just to add, more than 15,000 landowners were covered. That's great, isn't it? Who have the possibility of obtaining some income from the land that was frequently abandoned, promoting further and the increase of biodiversity, points out the company. I think that's really good news, and I'm glad to see that. And thanks to Agroportal for that news story there. And someone getting their hands dirty there, besmirching their beautiful, pristine white gloves, planting, it looks like a pine tree there to me. But anyway, lovely story to start with here on the Good Morning Portugal live stream. Let's say a few good mornings to people before we talk to Filomena. And good morning to Mag. Hi, Mag. I think you're in LX, aren't you? Elgish. Good morning to you as well. Thank you for your good morning to me. And a good question here. Why are you on air for only 40 minutes? Flipping heck, Dave and Debbie. I thought that was a long time. I thought, everyone's got other things to do, and we just have a quick check-in and a chat, and it was a nice start to the day. What would you like? Tell me what you'd like. I mean, I'm in that sort of market research phase at the moment to really find out what works best for people, if I'm on the right lines. So yeah, the length of the show, I think 30 minutes is enough, but let me know what you think about that, Dave and Debbie, what your expectations are. Good afternoon, it will be then. So Ferry prefers maybe a chat, maybe a little aguardente at lunchtime, and as we have a little, I could play a bit of music while everyone has a snooze, maybe, and not do too much talking. Maybe that's what people want. Bom dia, todos, from Wayne Barker, who is throwing a bit of Portuguese around this morning because he's here. Welcome. How's it going, Wayne? Bom dia. I think that's a way of kind of writing it as people say it, and I love it. How some of the older folks in my town, really kind of poetically say it. Bon dia, and really get into it. And I try and do that as well. I don't know if I'm doing it right. Some of the looks I get, suspect I'm not. You still have yesterday's photo up. Oh, did I really? Okay, I'm going to change that right away. I thought I'd done the right thing there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move myself off the screen so you can see this. This is Gary's picture of the observation tower that I was talking. I will use that again tomorrow, Gary. Yeah, sorry, my mistake there. But it's a beautiful picture of the rivers as there, so I'm not ashamed to show that again. And I will do the right thing with the Alvazra Tower this. So we will have that again tomorrow. Thank you for your pictures, Gary. Get pictures coming in from Pete as well, from Castanheira de Pera this morning, of some terrifying looking people. We'll go back to that. It's some sort of masked ritual in Goish. We must talk about that. Filomena might be able to add a little bit of texture to that when we after we've had a chat about Portuguese. Let's go back to your comments. The Portuguese language, I mean to say, and culture, because that's what I love about learning about Portuguese. You're learning about the culture as well as just doing the language. It makes it a lot more. It makes it a richer experience for me anyway, when we can tie it to the culture and everyday conversation. Bom dia, vocês, pessoas bonitas. Good morning to you, beautiful people. Nice turn of phrase there, Owen. And finally, for the time being, from Paul, hola, bon dia, GMP Pachon. That's good morning, GMP people. I think they're getting pretty good. We're going to get Filomena on now and get you, Filomena. Good morning to you. Can you give these lovely people marks out of 10 for their incredible efforts this morning?
Of course. Bom dia. Tudo bem?
Tudo bem? E consigo?
Também, obrigada.
Wonderful. I feel so much more accomplished than I did last time I spoke to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, so today we were thinking of speaking a little bit about the difference between desculpa and com licença, isn't
Yes,
it?
indeed.
Yeah. So in general, you think that desculpa is just sorry,
Yeah.
but actually it isn't, because desculpa can be also used as excuse me. So, for example, when you are in the street and you want to ask where is the post office, for example, and you can say, desculpe, podia dizer-me onde são os correios, por favor? So this is this desculpe is not just I'm sorry, but it's also excuse me.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, some people think that they should say com licença, onde são os correios? But not in that situation, because com licença you are always asking for a permission. So if you are asking where the post office is, you are not asking for any permission. So it's just the scope in that case. You can use com licença, for example, if someone is blocking your way in the supermarket, for example, and you want to pass, and you can say com licença, because in that situation you are asking for some permission to pass. Or if you are on the phone, and I know that speaking on the phone is always hard, but if you are on the phone and you want to hang up, but of course after your conversation you want to hang up, but just to be a bit more polite, instead of just okay bye, you can say com licença and then hang up, because this is to be a bit more polite, excuse me, and then you hang up. So in that situation, yes, you can say com licença, or to ask for permission to pass, you can say com licença. That's it. But
Uh,
desculpa in other situations where you want to say excuse me and ask a question, or of course desculpa can also be I'm sorry. You can say desculpe o atraso. Sorry for the delay, for example. Portuguese are experts in delays.
it's best that you say that rather than me. Okay, so I think we've got that, and the Latin scholars among us will know that a way of remembering this with desculp is the Latin word in there, culpa, like mea
Yeah.
culpa, like my fault. Yeah, and
Yes.
Conley says, so what I was thinking there is like you wouldn't say with your permission, like Conley says, where is the post office? But if that person is standing in front of the doorway of the post office, to get past them, you might say Conley says.
Yes, yes. If the person is standing and you want to pass, you ask com licença.
And this is, of course, what people do in the waiting staff in restaurants when they want to bring the food and put it on the table in front of you. You will hear people say "Conley says,"
Yes.
and so yeah, we're hearing that in restaurants as well, aren't we?
Yes, because they say com licença because you have to pay attention and give some space for them to put the plate in front of you or something. So they are also asking for permission to put the food on the table.
And this is where, of course, the reputation of Portuguese people being very polite comes from as well, I think, because it's in the language, isn't it? There is that formality and politeness in the language, which is wonderful. So
Yes,
the other part, desculpa and desculpa. Am I right in hearing this in everyday conversation that people just do shorten it to desculpa, desculpa?
well, Portuguese do speak fast, isn't it? So if when we say some words, sometimes you think they are shortened, but it's just the way we say it. Just school, school.
Okay.
If you say it very quickly, you just listen to the school.
All right. And
It's like
I don't know.
it's like, for example.
Go on,
Sorry.
please. I interrupted you.
It's like, for example, the word está, right? Está. You very rarely listen to está. It's just está, or sometimes está.
Wow. All right. And what is that when you're answering the telephone? Is that like the estou, está?
Yes, for example, you can answer the telephone with está or estou, but you can also say tá.
Can it get any shorter? I was like,
No. Ta is the shortest it can get.
brilliant. Before we move away from Desculpa and com licença, you were telling me a really brilliant story about how somebody learnt this the hard way in a restaurant, right? You don't want to
Yeah, because he was sitting in the cafe and he was going, com licença, com licença. But of course, I mean, he was just asking for permission, so nobody knew exactly what they wanted.
It's so brilliant. It's like, and the longer that goes on, the kind of weirder it gets, doesn't it? Is like there's just some strange Englishman in the middle of the restaurant holding his finger up, saying, "Excuse me," or "Pardon me, pardon me."
Yeah.
Sorry for being here. Sorry for being alive.
Yes, sorry.
British people do that.
But it happens the same with the Portuguese speaking English. Also, sometimes because this desculpa can be sorry.
Yes.
So sometimes Portuguese people say sorry instead of excuse me. It's also the same.
Amazing. The trials and tribulations. So if you've got any clinic style questions for Filomena, you've got yourself into trouble, or you're in doubt about something, we have the expert with us, because yes, you do lessons, don't you, Filomena? This is your business, this is your life. If people want to learn with you online, if there's some way from Miranda de Córdoba, how do they find you?
Well, first of all, they can find me on Facebook as Filomena Pascoal, or Trips for Brits with a 4, right? With a 4, Trips for Brits. And so either that or my email is also tripsforbrits@gmail.com. So it's easy to contact me.
And that's exciting as well, because I think one day we're all going to meet up, a few of us, Good Morning Portugal peeps, and it won't just be Brits, but it will be a Trips for Brits outing.
Well, actually, I teach lots and lots of different nationalities, not just Brits.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I was looking forward to meeting you one day and us having a fun day out with you. Escusa, what is that? Another variant on this whole com licença desculpe thing?
Escusar. Well, that's a verb, first of all. Yeah, escusar. But that is a bit different. For example, let me think of a situation with escusar. Well, escusar can be in the sense it's not, for example, it's not worthwhile. Eu posso dizer, I can say, I have to think of the sentence now. Well, it's not very usual. For example, if you say escusado, you can also say escusado telefonar-me, for example. It's not worthwhile to call me, so it's in that sense, escusar. So escusar can be, well, in English, I wouldn't say excuse, but in the sense of it's not worthwhile. It's just the only thing I can think of as a translation.
Almost in the realm of like leaving something out or omitting something in that way.
Yes, okay. Yeah. And for example, in terms of court, for example, in terms of court, for example, imagine a judge that has to judge some process, and he can ask for escusa because he knows, for example, the parts involved, and so he can't be totally impartial, and so he can ask for escusa. So not to be involved in the process. So
very good. Okay, we've got this pardoning. Yeah, in English that would be pardoning, wouldn't it? Okay, brilliant, brilliant.
So to excuse or pardon someone, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that, Pete. And yeah, so if you need to pardon somebody today, if you find yourself in that position, you now know what to say.
Although I must say that instead of escusar, the usual word is desculpar. So in that sense of, imagine that you want to say to me, "Oh, I'm so sorry for this or that," and then I can say, "Okay, eu desculpo-te. I pardon you. Eu desculpo-te." So that is, I pardon you.
I would like people to take that as homework today and find a situation in which they can say that to somebody. And I also want a photograph of that person who has been pardoned, just to see the look on their face. Bon dia, Carl, and I'm going to extend that to you, Filomena, from Claire and Steve, who are touring. I think they might be in Foz de Orelha or near their Salia de Porto, San Martinho de Porto, that lovely part of Portugal. Question from Gary. Why do Portuguese people not seem to say adios very much? I guess they're just saying te já or te logo or te amanhã, te próxima. Why not adios?
Well, I can just give you my personal opinion, but I think adios is a very definite goodbye. You know, it's a goodbye almost forever. You know, it's very well. So personally, I don't say adios very much either. So we prefer to say see you later or até já, até logo, ciao. But adios is more like you are not seeing the person again, or it's a bit more, it's stronger. I would say.
A strong goodbye. And
in my opinion, of course, that's my opinion.
No, that makes sense. And it's funny, isn't it? Because when you look at a book, often you see that adios is a way to say goodbye formally in a book. And again, in the Latin, it's like, to God, isn't it? So that would underline your theory there that to God is quite a firm send-off, isn't it? I guess. Well. I found myself in a funny situation the other day, Filomena, where I got mixed up with some phrases. I had a Portuguese guest. I've mentioned this before on the show, who was slightly reluctant to come to my house, an Englishman's house, for dinner because he thought he'd have to eat fish and chips. But I impressed him with a Portuguese-inspired fish dish, fish and cream. It wasn't bacalhau, but it was something that he enjoyed, and he told me, thank you very much, muito obrigado for the food. And instead of saying de nada, I said não faz mal, which made him laugh. Why would he laugh?
Yes, because não faz mal, it means it doesn't matter. Don't bother. It doesn't matter. So if he thanks you and you say it doesn't matter, well, of course he laughs.
Okay, right. Yeah, I'm glad I sorted that out with him. It's like he might have been offended and never spoke. I don't know what you think about food. Oh, brilliant. Okay.
But I just remembered another funny story about food, because the word nice. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
How would you translate nice into Portuguese?
I would have to just revert to like boa or bon.
Yes, but sometimes you can also say a person is nice, right? So he's nice, and that in that case, how do you say it?
Oh, what is that, like gentilo?
Okay, or simpático, right?
Simpático, that's the one. Yes, simpático.
Simpático. But of course, simpático is someone, right?
Yeah.
Not about a thing. And so a friend of mine went to have dinner at a Portuguese house, and they had some chicken, and he said, "O frango é simpático." and of course they all laughed a lot because they said, "But the poor chicken is already dead. How can it be nice like that?" Simpático. The chicken is dead. So
Oh, brilliant.
yeah. So some translations are really funny.
I could see that one. It's almost like, when people say it's a free range chicken. Well, actually, no, it's not anymore. It used to be. It may have been kind and free range before, but it's not anymore. Oh, that's
Yeah.
brilliant. Okay, so yeah, a little mental note made there. I think I'm being pardoned here for my grasp of Portuguese. Is that right? Carl, nós desculpa, we forgive you, or we pardon you for your. What I don't know what sotaque is.
An accent, Portuguese accent.
Okay, so I'm being forgiven and pardoned officially by the unofficial ambassador of Castanheira de Pera for my terrible accent. Thank you,
No,
Pete.
it's not terrible. It's not terrible, Carl.
Thank you, Filomena. Thank you so much. We say adios fairly often on Terceira.
Yeah, the island. Yeah, the island.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. I was thinking. I was just thinking on Tuesday.
That's terça. Terça.
All right. Oh, it's so difficult. A lot from Ana Lucia. She stands in for you, Filomena. Whenever you're not here, Ana Lucia checks in from the UK to tell us what we're doing right and wrong with Portuguese. So good morning to you, Ana Lucia.
Good.
And hola a todos. They're all showing off in front of you, I think, this morning. Everyone's saying hi in Portuguese. I've heard some Portuguese say ciao, although it's very Italian. Yeah, that's interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is Italian, but we don't say ciao like the Italian because the Italian way is ciao. We usually say ciao, ciao instead of ciao. We sometimes say ciao.
Oh, almost like the Brazilian, like a smoother sound to it. Ciao.
This ciao.
Ciao. Okay.
Ciao.
Do you know what I really love and what I've noticed here is how complex a goodbye can be. There's one chap who I've met in the telephone shop, and when he's on the phone to somebody, and I thought it was his girlfriend at first because he would be saying, like teja, beijinhos, abraço, ciao, ciao, teja, and it would go on for quite a long time. Is that a normal Portuguese thing to have quite a long, send off like that?
It depends. It depends. Probably, if he was speaking to his girlfriend, he would not love to say goodbye, right? So probably he was extending a little bit more to speak a bit more to her. But it depends on the people, right? But yes, you can say, yeah, sim, ciao, até logo, okay.
Yes, that's it. That's it. It just goes on, doesn't it? Which is really lovely. And there is Pete again with his ciao. That's the official spelling, I guess, right? Of Portuguese ciao.
Well, I read that as chão.
Oh, chão. So what's happening there?
Chão means floor in Portuguese.
Floor.
Floor, yeah, the floor. Chão.
Okay, so that's Pete trying to stir up trouble there and get us into trouble by saying floor to somebody when we're actually saying goodbye. Okay.
Yeah, please don't say chão. No.
Yeah, this is another. It's the same guy in the restaurant who's been holding his finger up, saying, "Pardon me, excuse me," for 5 minutes, and no one's taking any notice. Then leaves and says "floor." His parting word, floor.
Yeah, no, that is the sound with the A with that till.
Yeah.
Ciao. Yeah, ciao.
Okay.
But chão is this A-O with the till on the A is the sound on. So that is chão.
Yeah, like pound or count.
Like count, yeah, count, pound.
Got it. So we've got a few other people coming in with the TCHAU spelling now. Thank you for that,
Yeah,
Donna.
ciao.
Lisa.
Yes,
and again, with people are liking all these little sort of greetings and send-offs, I think, today. To guys, it's abraço, and to girls, it's beijinhos. I think, is he right? Says Frank in Lisbon.
Well, yes, in general, yes, because if you, of course, as a boy, you would say abraço to another boy, but you can say beijinhos to a girl, or between girls, they also can say beijinhos, although we can also, of course, say abraço. But yes, he is right.
And of course, if you want to test the boundaries of your friendship, you can change those around a bit and see how it goes. Um, so,
Yes.
so keep those questions coming in, guys, because I think we're going to take a little diversion to Goish now. Because we've got Filomena here, she may well have something to say about the Entrudo do Goish. Do you know about that?
I'm sorry, I don't. I'm
Okay,
sorry. Sorry.
let's have a look at this together, because Pete has sent me some really frightening pictures, which I'm going to share with you now. So we obviously need the context of these. Let me see if I can call this up on my screen now to share it with you. Here we go. So look at that man. Man, I don't know. It might be a man in a skirt. Not sure. Looks quite a sort of manly, macho pose there. And then we go to this picture of all these people in these masks. I hope you can see these on the screen.
Yeah.
If you're listening on the podcast, it's like a band of troubadours who are dressed up in sort of quite rustic clothing, but with very elaborate masks on as well. Quite incredible. And then a close up of somebody who's made a mask out of a piece of bark, with additions to it, and a wonderful, great big what would you call that on their back there? A sheaf of hay or wheat, or a mixture of foliage on their back.
Fardo de palha.
Okay. Are you making any sense of this, Filomena? What's the situation here? Does that mean anything to you?
I'm sorry to tell you that about that specific Intrudo do Góis. I don't know. I know about others, like for example, in the north of Portugal, o careto transmontano, o careto de Pudense. Yes, but not about this one. No.
Okay.
Probably it's more or less the same. I mean, the same in the idea of the concept. But
sure. But what does Intrudo mean?
It's a carnival. It's Intrudo is at carnival time, and it's another. In Portuguese, we can say Intrudo as another word for carnival.
Okay, fantastic.
But it's to do with the entering to the springtime. So
okay.
Intrudo, the origin of the word is about entering the springtime. So entering another period of the year. And this is done, for example, in Pudense, in the north of Portugal, Careto Transmontano, Careto de Pudense. They also wear very, very colorful clothes. It's a specific costume, very, very colorful, because it's also to celebrate the end of winter, the end of cold weather, and the beginning of spring. So and wearing the mask, for example, is a way to scare the bad things of the winter. So probably really, these masks are probably more or less the same.
And yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for that, Filomena, because it's obviously for country folk who are really living in the elements. This is an important time of year, isn't it? The darkness of winter has gone, and you're moving into the times of longer days, of brighter days, of warmer weather, and of course the return of food, which would have been so important, to people. With fewer supermarkets, like we just take all that stuff for granted now, but this would have been so important to people, wouldn't it? The return of spring and the fact that we could grow things again. Before we go into a deeper explanation from Pete, loving the Friday morning lesson. Thank you, Filomena and Mr. M. So yeah, let me extend that to you as well, Filomena. It's always such fun talking to you. I hope you'll come. Não faz mal, but
não faz mal.
In the mountain villages of central Portugal, the Entrudo or carnival was celebrated in a simple way. They dressed up in old clothes of the opposite sex. I was right. That's a fella dressed up as an older lady there, and covered their faces so that people could not recognize them as they got drunk and fooled around playing pranks on people. What brilliant Portuguese fun. In the neighboring village, they would recite rhyming stories of the inhabitants, speaking their bad breeding and lack of intelligence. God.
And if I may add to the tradition of carnival, also about wearing the opposite sex clothes. This is a tradition, especially in Torres Vedras. In Torres Vedras, at Carnival, where they have matrafonas. Matrafona is the word that refers to a man dressed in women's clothes.
Well,
matrafona.
I'm so glad we've added that to our vocabulary today, because you never know when you're going to need that. This tradition has been kept alive by the Lusitania Organization of Goiás. I love Goiás. It's such a fantastic place. That river beach there is wonderful. Yeah. And each year invites people to take part in the Intrudo in February. A few years ago, Ferry, the famous Ferry, Flog It with Ferry, and our other halves joined in. Fantastic. And I hope you cross-dressed suitably as matrifado, did you say?
Sorry?
What was the word again for matrifado?
Matrafona. Matrafona.
Matrifado would be something different, wouldn't it?
Matrafona.
The mask made of cork. And Gary's saying, "Are you sure this isn't Pete and his mates after a few beers?" That's also true. That is them after a few beers, getting into the spirit of it. Food-related question for you now, Filomena. If I may, yes, of course you may, Frank. Alheira, bake or grill?
I would say both. No, I think probably the most traditional way. I don't know, because that's Alheira is typical from the north, and I live in central Portugal. But of course, we have Alheira here, but the typical one is from Mirandela in the north. So, for example, in the restaurant, when I have Alheira, it's usually grilled or fried. I wouldn't say grill. It's fried, not grilled.
Tell us more about it. Sorry, I thought that was a verb, to bake or to grill. So what is Alheira? Could you tell us more about that?
Alheira is a sausage. Alheira is a sausage.
Right.
But there is also a long story. Does FD know the story of Alheira?
You must tell us anyway. Tell us anyway, Filomena. I'm intrigued now.
Well, because this has something to do also with, well, I have to go back to my history, to my history memory, to do with religion, and this was because this sausage is not as the other sausages that are made with pork and usually. Best one from Mirandela, yes. Best one are from Mirandela, so instead of having pork, this Alheira is made with essentially chicken and bread. It has bread inside, and so it was a way of now I don't remember if it was the Jews. Sorry about that. But the Jewish, yes, the Jewish history, yes. And so they, to pretend that they were Christians, they created this sausage. So they were also eating sausage, and the others would think that they were eating pork, but it was not pork.
Okay, a fascinating story. Wow. Okay, they made kosher sausages to distract the locals. What a brilliant story! Amazing.
Yeah, thank you, FD. Thank you.
and so now, that's the whole backstory for the Alheira, but that still hasn't answered the question, has it? I mean, and this will run and run, I'm sure.
Bake or grill. Well, because you can bake it, you can fry it, grilled, maybe, yes, also. But usually when I go to the restaurant and ask for Alheira, it's usually fried.
Okay.
But at home, when I prepare it at home, I usually bake it.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. And there is the other tradition, isn't there, in Portugal, where you have like a mini barbecue, like a little terracotta pot with some coals in, and it has the sausage, and it's brought to your table whilst it's still.
Yes.
I love that. I think that's an amazing.
With some aguardente.
Perfect. And, what a lovely little snack to have. And there you go. If you weren't aware of it and you don't like to eat pork, you can, of course, now you're aware of the Alheira sausage, which is made of chicken and bread, which doesn't sound entirely appetizing when you put it like that, does it? Like a chicken sandwich made into a sausage, but it's all about the seasoning. It's all about.
It's very good. It's very good. It's one of my favorites.
Fabulous. All right. So let's conclude now, Filomena. You've given us so much this morning, as you did last time you were here, and I hope you'll come again. But do you want to set us a little bit of homework? Because you need to make these people work a bit harder. It's all very well saying "Hola, bon dia," you lot, but let's see if Filomena can give us a little bit more to practice on. How might we augment and enrich our vocabulary or our conversation a little bit more, Filomena, between now and when we next see you?
Well, as I sometimes tell my students to try to, at least for half an hour every day, try to think in Portuguese. Try not to, abstract from English, and because there are some expressions that you can't translate as we have seen, right? Some expressions that. So if you try to at least try to think as much as possible in Portuguese, even if it's now I'm going to get a beer, I'm going to open the fridge, or try to think in Portuguese. It's a good exercise, I think.
Brilliant. I can't wait for the results of that. And I'm going to be reminding people to do that. Thank you, Filomena. A couple more comments about aliera. That's captured people's imagination. Yes. Frank, for that. There's a trick to frying aliera. I think it's the same with a lot of sausages, isn't it? Otherwise, it just bursts. It's the most delicious, served with fried egg and chips. Yeah.
And if when you fry it properly, the skin comes out naturally. Yes. The skin just wraps itself and comes out naturally.
Okay, which you may or may not eat as you wish, as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it kind of disappears afterwards.
Okay, and a little bit of backstory, a bit more from Gary. During the Inquisition, they were told Jewish people because they didn't have sausage hanging up, so they made chicken sausages. Yes, of course.
Yes, that's it.
Incredible cultural, historical insight there. Thank you for mentioning that. We never quite know what's going to happen, do we, Filomena, when we talk? It's been fantastic to have you here again this morning. Thank you so much. Just a quick teja, beijinhos to you, até logo.
Beijinhos a todos e bom fim de semana.
Fantastic.
Bom fim de semana.
Bon fin de semana, of course. Bon fin de semana. Take great care. Lovely to be with you again, Filomena. See you again soon, I hope. I hope they haven't put you off and that you'll be back again.
Obrigada.
Obrigado. Ciao. Oh, wonderful. Filomena there. Yes, hold on. Just one more comment there from Alan. If you want to keep it intact, stick 2 or 3 toothpicks in it. Nice tip there, Chef Ramsay. If you want to keep it intact, stick 2 or 3 toothpicks in it. I'm assuming she is talking about the sausage. Okay, I very quickly, because there is a chance of me winning $500. I just to give you a bit of a heads up of what I'm going to do now is I use coffee.com as the way of crowdfunding and supporting what I do with the Good Morning Portugal project. We are crowdfunded, and the idea really, and the way that coffee.com works, is that you get a lot of people chipping in a little bit, which I think is an incredible business model. Really good thing for artists who don't know where the next meal's coming from and that sort of thing. And with coffee.com, that's ko-fi.com. That's how we crowdfund for the Good Morning Portugal project, the live stream, the YouTube and the podcast. And my dream, my idea is to provide you with a service every day, pretty much, certainly weekdays, and we do the sports report, which we'll be doing tonight instead of tomorrow, and we'll be having our wine club tomorrow evening, of course, with Eloise, who introduced us to Filomena, so thank you to Eloise for that. But the way this works is in that crowdfunding mode of having a lot of people chip in a little bit to spread the load, which is different, isn't it? I mean, if you're brought up with a corporate mindset of how you make your living, you have one employer who gives you a big load of money every month or whatever, hopefully for the rest of your life, and that's the way it's always worked. More recently, with crowdfunding models, we're into this idea, aren't we, that a lot of people giving a little can be a way forward. And that's what we're trying to do on Good Morning Portugal. And the way we've talked about it on coffee.com, as the name suggests, you buy a coffee for the artist, the creator, the podcaster, whatever. But what we've done, because we're the Happy Homesteaders, we've asked people to buy us a packet of seeds. So just to contribute €1. So my big idea, the way coffee.com works, is that, let's say, my target is if 999 people around this world of ours of 6 billion, allegedly 7 billion, however many it is, of that world population, if only 999 of them contributed the value of a packet of seeds €1, that would be a pretty good way of making this thing work long term. So that's how coffee.com works. That's how I would love it to work here. If you do want to buy us Happy Homesteaders, the Munson family, a packet of seeds for €1, do go to coffee.com, which I'm going to share with you now. My particular page is coffee.com/Carl Munson, CarlMunson. There's the page there. It tells you about the goal, tells you about how we're living in Portugal and what we're trying to do. And you can even create it as a monthly payment as well. So there you go, ko-fi.com/Carl Munson. And do feel free to buy us a packet of seeds or two there. So let's wish you, as Filomena said, a bom fim de semana. And there is an abraço for Mr. M. Beijinhos for Filomena. Absolutely right, FD. Bon fin de semana to you. See you this evening for the sports report, you sports fans. See you tomorrow night, you wine fans. Best quote I've heard about wine recently was, the problem with wine is if I got into wine, I'd probably never get out again. So we will be encouraging responsible drinking and the developing an appetite and palate for Portuguese wine as we do our virtual vineyard tour of Portugal tomorrow evening with Eloise, and we'll be trying an Alentejan and a white from Évora tomorrow from the Cartuja organization vineyard tomorrow. Looking forward to that at 9 o'clock. So do join us for that. And otherwise, see you on Monday. Bom fim de semana. Até a próxima. Ciao. Beijinhos. Até já. Até logo.